and welcome to another episode of Dana Being Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and we are live on Facebook and IntellectualRadio.com. Exciting things are happening at Dana Being Dana, and I appreciate you joining with us. Please share the video, hit the share button. We are so excited about everything that we've got going on, and I am so excited to be here tonight with my friend about a hot topic. Are y'all hot? Because I'm hot.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic. Tonight's show is Mute R. Kelly, Time's Up, Me Too. Who knew? Did you know? Who knew? Because we are going to talk about some very, very important topics. And I'm very excited about this panel. I'm excited about this show. I think the marketing has been awesome this week. And I would like to introduce, happens every week. I would like to introduce my esteemed panel. Amanda, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Hello.
In the mic.
Hello. I'm Amanda Adams, and I am an author and a poet, and I'm really glad to be here with you, Dana, to discuss some of these topics that are so vital and important to who we are, and just helping us to define some of the things that affect us in society, and hopefully this conversation we will be able to come to an understanding together and share our different views with one another.
No, please don't. No, Nino. Thank you very much, and I'm so glad you're here. You've got an amazing book. You wrote you wrote a couple of books before. We're not gonna put that on. Please don't.
Don't put it on?
No, please don't. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll go now to you, Michelle.
I'm Michelle Jenks, and I run an after-school program for junior high girls. It's called the Fusion Project, and it really is to empower girls to not become victims to a lot of things we're going to talk about tonight.
Khalid.
Hello, everyone. Kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. We're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. My name is Khalid Scott. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Been doing social work for 25 years, and I work with victims, and I work with perpetrators, and have a lot to talk about, a lot to get out, because it's for the victims. Yeah.
And you're also a father.
Absolutely. My daughter just got accepted to Harvard. So
yes, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Proud father.
Thank you.
And you have a lot to say. I really enjoyed talking to you and some of the prep stuff that we did and hearing your story. I thought you're going to be a great asset to this conversation.
Thank you.
Now, when all this news broke, I had the fortunate experience of having brunch with my good friend Rod and my Morehouse brother. How are you?
All right.
Thank you so much for being here. Yes.
That's my cue.
That's your cue.
All right. My name is Roderick Walden. I'm a high school assistant principal in Chicago Public Schools. One reason why this topic is important to me is just because as I work with young people, it's twofold. One, it's important for, young ladies to understand what a real man is, how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Number two, it's important for young men to understand the same thing. And a lot of things in the media that our kids get exposed to every day, they kind of shape and mold those ideals when they don't have that positive influence, ever present in their everyday lives. So that's why this is really important to me.
Yeah. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. My friend Veronica, how are you?
Hey.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Veronica. I am Dana's hairstylist, and I provide hair extensions with Vazizo. And also, I am a victim of abuse. So I am here today if there's any questions or anything like that to talk about.
I appreciate you being here.
Sure.
Number one, I appreciate you sponsoring the show and being my friend.
Yes, ma'am.
But I appreciate you being here and your courage to share your story and your experiences. So thank you so much for being here. Love you. Nino.
Yes.
How are
doing,
you?
Dana? I'm all right. How you doing?
All right. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm TC with the show Intellectual Radio. I'm Joe Jack with Bob at TC. And I'm also have 3 daughters that I raised the right way. And I'm here to get my personal perspective on the situation. That's all.
I appreciate you being here.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's jump right into it. For those of you who don't know, I just want to explain what the Me Too movement is all about. The Me Too movement is a movement against sexual harassment and sexual assault. It began to spread virally in October of 2017 as a hashtag in social media in an attempt to demonstrate the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and harassment, especially in the workplace. It followed sexual abuse allegations against Harvey Weinstein. There's a lot of other stuff about celebrities who made it famous with their hashtag of Me Too. But I wanted to turn it over to you, Amanda. You wrote a book. Your first book, The Sangarita Club, is a story about the Me Too movement. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's all about and also how we can find it?
Absolutely. The book is called The Sangarita Club. It's available at barnesandnoble.com as well as amazon.com. But what it is a collection of hashtag Me Too stories about 4 women that live in New York City. And they are corporate executives. And it really explores their personal as well as their private lives. And the book focuses on areas such as alcoholism, sexual assault, domestic violence, and just the far-reaching consequences of these types of issues. And that, if you are a victim of sexual assault or a witness, how it can affect your life going forward in terms of future generations. Not necessarily for you to become an abuser, but you may exhibit other types of behaviors, such as not able to connect well with people and develop relationships, to also have behaviors where you abandon people because you're afraid of getting close. So there are so many consequences that are so far-reaching when you deal with issues around sexual assault.
Do you see that in some of your work in terms of people who have been victims of sexual abuse or sexual assault, and that permeating in their behaviors and interactions, even abuse experienced as a child or a kid or young adult in their adult lives? Can you talk a little bit about how that permeation impacts their abilities to connect and relate to adults?
Okay.
Anyone.
All right. Well, being a licensed clinical social worker, and even in my personal life, I have a lot of friends, even male friends. And the thing is, when you're a social worker off work. So folks know that you're a listening ear. Mm-hmm. And my male friends who were victimized as boys tend to be very promiscuous in their behavior. And when we talk about it, because they feel comfortable to open up, I let them know that what happens is when you're violated as a child, you don't understand boundaries anymore. So you either become the extreme, you either become very promiscuous, or you become very introverted and shy, and and you're trying to navigate romance and love and sex and everything like that, and you're trying to figure this thing out. But again, because you haven't established boundaries, or because you were victimized at such a young age, that you're always trying to figure it out, and you're thinking that each person that I love or be involved with is going to solve or fill the void that's there. So, and it lasts forever unless you get mental health services.
Say that again. What's the only way to address a history of abuse?
Have to get mental health services. And many folks, especially in the Black community, feel that, well, I can talk to you. One of my friends said it, Khalid, I can just talk to you. You're my therapist. And I said, no, I'm your friend who happens to be a clinician. So I have a bias. You have to talk to someone who can take you on this journey of healing effectively, So I highly recommend anyone who's been victimized that, you seek the help that you need, because that's the only way you're going to get over it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm a victim of sexual assault as a child, and that's one of the reasons I wrote the Sangrita Club, because it was an opportunity for me to create a space of catharsis for myself. And these four women who I talk about in this book, they are experiencing issues as adults because they haven't dealt with things that have happened to them in their childhood. And so one of the main characters is a counselor that they go to talk and finally begin the process of healing. And that's what hashtag Me Too is all about. It's about victims coming forward so that they can begin the healing process. Because if you don't deal with things that happen to you, they will come back over and over again.
So they don't go away.
No, they don't go away.
So abuse and other issues that people experience they just fester.
Yep.
They don't go away.
Not until you talk to someone.
Right.
I've had that. That's the only way I've gotten through.
Yeah.
Is talking about it.
Absolutely. And there are certain things that can happen in your lives. It can be a certain sound or a certain song that triggers those memories, and then you end up having flashbacks. I didn't really start dealing with my issues until I was in college, because I started having flashbacks and dreams, and I didn't understand why.
Right.
And it was because I had suppressed things in my childhood that I hadn't dealt with, that I hadn't talked to anyone about. But as a college student, they began to come out as I started dating and developing relationships with people. Then I started having flashbacks.
Absolutely.
But I got help.
I think that's a misconception, that people get abused and they know and they're aware of it the whole time and can talk about it. And so often it's their repressed memories. And so it's affecting their lives without anybody knowing, like without them knowing why. One of the phrases I heard, and we use it with our girls a lot, is when you've gone through things like that, you typically trust people you shouldn't, and you don't trust people that you should. And it's partly that boundary thing that you were talking about, that you just don't know.
Say that again. Say that again.
That you trust the people that you shouldn't trust, and that you don't trust the people that you should. Partly because it's 80% chance that you're abused by someone that you know. And so the person you should trust ends up betraying you. And so therefore you skew who you think is trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Amanda, how can people reach you to get a hold of your books or reach out to you personally?
They can reach me at booksbyamandaadams.com. I have a website which talks a little bit about me, about my experiences as a writer, and where to get my books as well. I also have a second book that I have recently published called Don't Hold Your Breath. And it is a poetic catharsis. It's about the 4 phases of relationships: longing for love, finding love, losing love, and then finding liberty within yourself. And that's available at Amazon.com as well.
Now, we talked about, thank you, Amanda. We talked about people in relationships. We're talking about love. And I think a lot of times people who have been abused or who have experienced abuse experience difficulty in relationships, particularly romantic relationships. But I also think that everybody experiences difficulty when it comes to love and relationships. And Rod, I think you said something earlier about how a real man should be and what types of attributes or traits should be typical of a real man and what real men should do or should act when it comes to relationships, and what women should expect when it comes to relationships. Would you guys care to expound on that or elaborate what maybe the gentleman in the room?
Absolutely.
Well, kind of just adding on to what's been said already. We talked about those issues coming back up, with victims. Also, things that occur are those things being normalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are also issues, especially when we're talking about, our young people, that it happens so often to where that's just how it's supposed to be. So,
meaning they don't even know what right is.
They're numb to it.
Because they're numb to it.
They're numb to it. They may feel that, okay, something's not right about this, but this is just how life is. And that's even more dangerous and more terrifying than someone experiencing something, knowing later that it was wrong. But now you really have to rewire somebody essentially.
Having a 16-year-old daughter who is breathtakingly beautiful and brilliant.
Of course she is.
Of course, absolutely. I had to go and teach her about relationships and men and women with a different angle. And the angle came from my experiences as a social worker. One of the things I told my daughter when she got older, and I know I'm going to get beat up because I always do, I tell her, baby, all men cheat. And she was like, Daddy, wow, but you didn't cheat, did you? I said, not with your mother, but with other relationships I had. And I said, Anaya, let me explain to you why Daddy is telling you this. Life is not a Walt Disney movie. People are going to do good things towards you and bad things towards you. I need you to be prepared for either one. I don't need you to think that because your face is beautiful, your hair is down to the middle of your back, you're 5'9" and 110 pounds and look like a model in New York, that a man won't cheat on you. That let's look at Beyonce, let's look at Halle Berry and understand that with us men at times, with some of us men at times, it's never enough. And I need you to be prepared for that. And I need you to always love you and understand Daddy has a 4-bedroom house. So if you ever need to come home, you got a place to stay. So I say all that to say is that I have to teach my child who could be vulnerable because she's had the suburban girl life, and I need her to understand that it's predators out here. It's people who will groom you based on thinking, oh, she got a daddy at home. She thinks she all that or whatever. No, they'll work on you a little bit harder.
Because they like the challenge.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you said know your worth. And we're going to let the men respond to that as well.
Absolutely.
But we're going to talk to Michelle briefly in just a minute about this self-esteem and about this confidence in women and kind of how that gets broken down.
Yes, I have 3 daughters. My oldest is 24. She graduated from college already. I got another daughter that's a junior. And I have another daughter that's a junior at Aurora College. I have a younger daughter. That's my youngest. She's a senior in Rich Central. I actually raised my daughters different than what I'm hearing these men talk because I keep her honest with my daughter. And as a parents, some parents, I'm not speaking on the people on the panel, but some parents feel like they can't be honest with their kids. And I love the experience I have with my daughters by being honest. And I feel when it all said and done, it starts at home.
We believe in honesty, but what about with what Khalid said with respect to raising your daughters and the fact that, there are men out here who have predatory behavior.
But if you raise your daughter the right way, predatory behavior won't affect your daughter. I'm just being honest. I lived it. It's not a rumor. Okay? I raised my daughters a certain way. So predatory is behavior. Is when it's all said and done, if you be honest, it's because it's a lack of something that's at home. Something's not there. Let's be real. It's something's not there. Because I don't understand. I mean, I have real conversations with my daughters because my daughters are shaped like their mother. So they look older than their age. And so men try, do what they do to try to talk. But I didn't wait till they get 14 to get to talking to them. It starts in the beginning. And if your father is really in your life and really being a father, which means understand what's really going on in this world, if you raise your daughters with the aspect of understanding what the world really going to bring to them, and you there for them, your daughters will talk to you. And I'm just speaking on my experience.
Well, both my parents were at home. Both.
I'm not saying at home.
I had a strong father, very strong father.
So
my mother was just as strong.
So what happened?
And no matter how they protect their precious little girl, they're still predators that will come along. Yes. Even if your father have told you all about them, girls still seem to sometime turn against their parents and do what they want to do. So no matter how strong you feel like you are with your girls can still choose someone that can hurt them horribly.
Well, let me respond to that. Well, my daughter's been able, I can't speak on your parents, I wasn't there, but I can speak on me and mine. Well, my daughter's been having an open dialogue to talk to me about anything, which means that starts when they was younger. My daughter's been through experiences when if I wasn't there, I know what would have happened to my daughter.
I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the differences between self-confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah.
And if you care to respond to the conversation as well.
I don't know which to say first.
But
I want to respond.
You can respond,
Okay.
but then I'll bring you back to
Okay.
to that point, because that's one of the things where I met Michelle. You could talk a little bit about the Fusion Project as well and where we can find you. But I think it was so poignant with what you said when we met. So if you could please feel free to respond, and then I'd
All right.
love for you to talk about that as well.
The response is, as much as we want to be perfect parents and do what we can, I can tell you hundreds, thousands of stories of girls who are groomed by somebody and then predatored by another person who comes in with all the information. And there is no way we can protect that without being there all the time. And these are smart college-going girls who the predators out there are just very, very manipulative and smart, and they find ways, and it's not what it used to be. And so I'm grateful for you that didn't happen to your girls, but I have story after story of girls who are close to their parents, who don't lie, who don't do any of the things you would think, and then find themselves in situations that they're unprepared for, which then I can go to the comment about one of the most fascinating things I've been studying is the difference between self-confidence and self-esteem. And self-esteem really has to do with our sense of worth as a human being.
Yes.
And
Say that again.
Okay.
So
Self-esteem.
we can marinate.
I know.
You're listening. Share the show so that everybody can understand this lesson. PSA.
Self-esteem is our sense of worth as a human being. And as parents, we often think that if we build their self-confidence, that we're going to build their self-esteem. But self-confidence is their confidence in an ability. It's very localized. So I can have self-confidence because I'm a basketball player, for instance. I'm not, but if I was, I could have confidence in that. But that doesn't mean I have self-esteem. And when I met Dana, I was doing a talk, and we were talking about the fact that so many parents have inadvertently, not on purpose at all, but inadvertently lowered self-esteem of girls by focusing on the confidence issue and not the self-esteem issue, or spending so much time on self-esteem that they don't have any confidence in anything, and their actual self-esteem lowers. And so that's a really difficult thing. And what we try to do at the Fusion Project is work with the girls in both. So we're giving them things that they can do that they can feel confident in, but also talking that you are worthy as a human being because of who you are. Just being a human being, you're worthy. And girls do not understand that. And when they get to be 12 or 14, which is the average age of girls who are trafficked, that is the age where they lose all their confidence. They don't understand what's going on with their body. They don't understand what's going on in their thought process. Their brains are changing, and boys are going through the same thing. And not having someone there who's not a parent, but actually having other people say you're worthy. And also we're going to teach you some skills and some things you can be confident in as well. It has to go hand in hand.
How prevalent is the trafficking?
Sex trafficking is in every single zip code of the United States.
Say that again.
Sex trafficking is in every single zip code of the United States.
You see, we repeat things on Dana being Dana, just so it can
just the important ones.
Just the important one.
Yeah, it's prevalent. And I'll just say this one more thing, but I really feel like part of it is because we have not taught girls, especially, how to deal with bullying. They don't know how to deal with that, standing up for themselves. And I really feel like it's this whole process of building, and things kind of build up on each other. But I will say that when children have been sexually abused, as children, obviously, when they've been sexually abused, that they have a much higher rate of being trafficked. That one group that I work with says 100% of the women that they save have been abused as children. Another statistic is 70 to 90%. But that is huge. So thinking that we can just, gloss over sexual abuse of children is horrifying to me, because it's just setting them up, like what you said. It's just setting them up for later victimization without them even knowing what's going on.
I want to give a shout out to my friend Morgan, and with Take My Hand Now. This is the shirt, And if you can't see it, I'll show it to you later. It's on my profile page, but it's a shirt that says "You are worthy."
Mhm.
And when you look in the mirror, it's reflected back at you. So when you look at it straight on, it looks like a whole bunch of jarbled crisscrosses. But when you look at it in the mirror, it says "You are worthy."
That's awesome.
And I just love the concept. And Take My Hand Now is a sponsor. You can order this shirt at takemyhandnow.com. But it speaks to that very thing you're talking about girls knowing their worth.
Yeah.
And one thing that I thought was very interesting in your talk, and I thought about it again as you were speaking now, a lot of people talk about having young girls, all these daughters we're talking about. Remember when they were 5 and 6 and 4, how sassy they were, how strong-willed they were, how opinionated they were, right? I think there's a seismic shift. Everybody talks about how strong their girls are when they're little.
Yes.
And there's a seismic shift, I believe, when puberty hits or what happens, but all girls begin to question their self-worth. Their body starts changing. They start being noticed by boys. Girls. I've seen girls who are super smart begin to regress or pretend to regress or dumb down to minimalize themselves. So there's all types of changes and challenges that girls go through. I think conversely, men or young boys tend to be very kind of happy-go-lucky and loving, and that camaraderie. There's none of that masculinity, that toxic masculinity that's prevalent. And again, around the same time, there's a seismic shift where it's no longer cool to hug a friend or to show compassion or loving or to cry or whatever it is. And so I just think it's interesting because I think it influences the dynamics between men and women as those boys and girls begin to change.
Don't you think part of it is that we talk about it differently? So strong little girls become smart alecky teenagers. And so we silence them a little bit and just by the words that we use in the describing of who they are.
I think that's absolutely right. I think that is absolutely true. If people want to get involved, tell us a little bit about the Fusion Project and what it is that you all specifically do and how people can find you.
Okay. We go into schools and they work with us. There are volunteers, but we go into schools so that children or high school, junior high girls can just be there. They don't have to go anywhere. Their parents don't have to drive them somewhere. I feel like that eliminates any resistance of other people who can't come, right? If they can come. So we go into schools after school and we do a free 1.5-hour program with them and teach them. We always have food. We always do something that's fun. Well, food.
Now they're coming.
Yep, exactly. And sometimes it's the only food that they have in their whole day. And so I'm very aware that we have to have that and not to shame them for that, which is a big deal for me. But we always do something fun, and then we have a focused topic of the day that we do. And so we are able to do those because organizations or groups of women say we want to sponsor and provide that for that school. And so then they bring the volunteers. We train all the volunteers. We give them all the stuff that they need to do, but then they're able to go and do the program and kind of own it themselves, but in the light of Fusion.
Rod, do you think as an educator, do you think this is something that is useful in schools?
I definitely think it's useful in schools. I think the most important part where a lot of organizations miss the mark, they look for our young ladies to volunteer, right, for participation. The ones that are going to volunteer to participate are not the ones that need the help.
Exactly.
Right. So to really get to our young ladies that need the help, I mean, you're going to have to essentially beat up the hallways. You got to be in the hallways. You got to speak with counselors to really, get the kids that need those services to be able to take advantage of it.
I totally agree. And one of our most successful schools allowed our high school volunteers who are leaders to come in and talk to the girls. And so when they saw how cool the high school girls were, a lot of the girls, we had to limit the number of girls because we had 50 girls sign up immediately. And we just had so many girls, we didn't have enough leaders for them. But it's because they realized, they saw it was cool as opposed to feeling like, oh, they're singling me out because they see something in me or something like that.
How can people bring the Fusion Project to their schools? How can they reach you? How can they get in touch with you?
They can email me, which is Michelle@fusion4girls.org, or you can go to our website, which is the same, fusion4girls.org, and contact, and it will come straight to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they want to read Amanda's books, where can they go to find you, Amanda?
Books by AmandaAdams.com, and my books are available on Amazon.com.
And if they want to get their hair done on their way to the Fusion Project, how can they reach you, Veronica?
At Veronica's House on Facebook. And then also my number is 630-995-2320.
Awesome.
And I answer anytime.
Thank you. I want to shift the subject because I think what's hot and how this kind of all came together was the Surviving R. Kelly documentary.
Yes.
And for those of you who have not yet had a chance to see it, please share the show. Check it out. The series reveals young women emerging from the shadows and uniting their voices against singer R. Kelly. Celebrated as one of the greatest R&B singers of all time, R. Kelly's career has now been plagued with rumors of abuse, pedophilia, and predatory behavior towards women. In the documentary, survivors step forward to detail new allegations about his physical, mental, and sexual abuse. More than 50 interviews with those who include civil rights activists Tanara Burke, musicians John Legend, Sparkle, talk show host Wendy Williams, and R. Kelly's family members shed light on the singer's controversial past. One of the things that became evident to me, I thought about a lot of things that happened, but the number of people who came forward to me, there are people that I've known for the greater part of my life who came forward when I decided to do a show about this topic, and I thank you all for joining me, who had experienced this predatory behavior. So it became very prevalent to me as to how common it was. People that I've known for a very long time, and I'm thinking about all of those people who've come forward and shared that with me. But it's the situation where you meet a friend who's kind of the bait, if you will, who kind of lures you in. Be my friend, be my girl. We're hanging out together, and they lead them to other people or other groups where that's when they're taken advantage of, or they're assaulted, or they're drugged, or whatever happens. But there's somebody that earns their trust that essentially lures them to a more vulnerable place. Do you guys want to talk about that? Do you experience that in some of the work that you do?
Well,
I don't mean experience, but are you aware of these types of behaviors in the work that you do?
Absolutely. Again, as a social worker and as a therapist, every client on my caseload has been a victim of sexual abuse as a child. And piggybacking on the documentary, I sat and watched all 6 episodes with my 16-year-old daughter, who happens to look like Aaliyah and who goes to Kenwood. Okay. So I said, Anaya, if R. Kelly was to have drove up to Kenwood tomorrow, how many of your friends do you feel would get in the car with him? And she was like, Daddy, we're honor roll students, top 10. None of us would. I said, stop right there. Sweet Pea, how many of your friends don't have a dad at home or a dad present? 1, 2, 3. How many of your friends that you can just instantly tell me right now have suffered from low self-esteem? She was like, well, and I said, Anaya, guess what? He could pick you up. Daddy, why do you say that? I have you. I said, Anaya, you a nerd. So what a predator would do is, you're not the fast girl that they used to seeing. You're the other one. You're shy, you're laid back, you wear sweat clothes and jeans. So she doesn't dress like this going to school every day. So you would be, again, the challenge. And they would say, wow, let me target her to see if I can break her down. And the only thing he has to do is find a piece of your brokenness, because every human has brokenness, even the ones, brother, who do have mothers and dads present in their life. All of us have come from a broken place with something going on, and they'll dwell right in. Predators groom you. They just don't come out, grab you, and assault you.
That's a kidnapper.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Right.
That's right.
There's a difference.
They push the envelope just a little. I got away with that. Let me push it a little bit. I got away with that. Now I can go for the kill.
If you've ever been manipulated by somebody,
absolutely,
by a friend who eats all your food, by a roommate who wastes all the money on the bills, who leaves the house nasty, people don't move in being slobs, right?
Right.
It's over time that type of manipulation and taking advantage of somebody comes about. Do we have Miss Kenyette on the phone?
Hi, how's everyone doing?
How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
for those of you who don't know, Kenyette Tisha Barnes is a political strategist, lobbyist, mother, and CEO. She is the national co-founder of Mute R. Kelly. How are you?
I'm doing well, sis. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to start with you. And I think this goes somewhat without saying, but I'd love for you to talk about it. What's the goal and the purpose of the Mute R. Kelly movement?
To really center for the first time ever in a national space sexual violence among Black women and girls. And included in that includes accountability for the perpetrator who has for over 3 decades preyed upon, groomed, sexually assaulted, violated Black women and girls, and has escaped accountability. So the goal of the Mute R. Kelly movement really is accountability, to have a financial and a social space, a social consciousness impact on him, and to center the survivors as credible, and to let them know that without a doubt Black girls do matter.
And I think credibility of these women is something that has been in question or been attacked as well over the years. How has the Mute R. Kelly movement been impacted since the Surviving R. Kelly documentary aired last month?
Well, the Mute R. Kelly movement started in 2017, but there's been activists on the ground around the country who've been sort of raising the consciousness of his behavior for years. And so since the Surviving R. Kelly documentary, we have witnessed more attention around his behaviors. I think when people saw it in such a context as Dream did such an amazing job demonstrating, it became less about random cases and rumors and innuendo and more about, wait a minute, this is a pattern of behavior that is pathological and it's pretty disgusting. And had it been anyone else, had it been Robert Simpson from around the corner, he'd be in jail by now. And so one of the things that's kind of interesting about this particular situation is we are dealing with someone who has a degree of power and influence and the ability to sort of manipulate those systems, including the criminal justice system. He's been able to pay a lot of these young ladies through NDAs to sort of make it go away. So one of the things that I think has happened with the Mute R. Kelly movement before and after the documentary is we're taking away that ability for him to do that.
What were some of your reactions? For those of you who saw the documentary, what were some of your reactions?
Because we were also featured in the documentary, I was sort of privy to a lot of what everyone saw for the first time. So I knew a lot of what was in it. And I had spoken with several of the survivors and have heard their stories. So I wasn't shocked. I was saddened. I did have a visceral emotional response to it. And it just really, for my co-founder and I, it just really was clear that we're on the right side of this and that it is time to amp this up and to seek accountability for these young women.
Anybody else?
I kind of remember thinking, didn't people know this from a couple years ago? Like, why did he get away with it? Why are we going back to it again? I was so angry that it had been going on this whole time and just gotten shoved under the rug.
Well, I think part of that is it really speaks to what this movement wants to do. Yeah. And it's so in the criminal justice system, as we know, Black women and girls tend to not be credible witnesses. So when they're not perceived as credible, I was listening in and I heard the term fast being used. Well, these are monikers that are placed on girls way before their sexual maturity some sisters out of Georgetown did a beautiful study and coined the term adultification, which means that we apply these precocious labels on girls that we don't apply on anyone else.
Right.
So,
and a lot of times, I was going to say, go ahead.
So that's part of the reason why these young ladies have not been able to seek justice for years, because they don't look like they're credible. And, well, aren't these girls liars anyway? And aren't they fast? And, well, look at their background. And, you know, they didn't have dads in the home or whatever we want to throw out there. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter which social constructs we assign to them, the pathology is there, and they were survivors, and they were victims and not survivors, and there needs to be accountability.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to respond?
It also made me think about how many young ladies are susceptible just to this predatory behavior. You know, when I'm, over the years as an educator, just roaming the halls, particularly in the high school, right? You look at male and female interactions, and you look at, the times when a young man might have, called a young lady out her name, or, did something subtle, but it's still disrespectful, and it's been okay, right? And the thing that's scary is, for all those young ladies that was okay, they and more are all susceptible to this behavior,
Absolutely.
Especially, I think that to answer that question, how many are susceptible? All.
Right.
And it has little to do with self-esteem or self-confidence or having a daddy. It has to do with a culture of toxic masculinity. We have in our culture normalized, as you just mentioned, brother, we've normalized sort of overtly boundary crossing sexualized behavior. So if you're seeing this, if you're experiencing this as a young woman at 12 and 14, I mean, I heard some of the other sisters tell about their experiences. I don't think there is a woman on this panel, especially a Black woman, who at a very young age was sexualized, usually by an older male person. You learn that your femaleness is a threat. It's a threat to yourself. You become prey, and there's nothing you could do about that. And and I know I'm talking, but I wanted to just make sure that I address some of the other things. But it's I grew up in a middle class household with both parents, and like some of the other sisters, I'm not going to get into details, but I've had my issues with grooming and predatory behavior, and we have to begin to change the conversation, not about the girls. And you're absolutely right, brother. When you see those girls being talked to, when you see those girls accepting that, it's not that they're accepting it, it's that it is unacceptable. And it needs to be corrected. There needs to be corrective conversation. But what we tend to find is that we glorify that behavior. Yes. Oh, he's a little Mac. Oh, look at him. He got 5 or 6 girlfriends, And
look at little pimp.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a little bit. I actually loathe that P word. I loathe it.
Exactly.
And I understand in the Black community it's looked at as sort of a sign of machismo, but it's actually toxic. And but when we see those behaviors, when I see young men doing that, I call them out and I say, young man, if you like her, walk over to her and introduce yourself to her. Walk with her to class, but yelling, talking about her body, that's not.
Well, I have a question, Dana. I'm listening, but I have a question. Why is that the fathers or the people that raise daughters and been a part of their life, and daughters successfully dodge certain predators and certain things in their life, why their situation has to be treated as if you're an anomaly and we're going to treat it like this, instead of embracing with the father that had the daughter that survived those situations? Why their knowledge and what they brought upon their daughter, why that's not embraced? Why is it that, well, we understand with your daughter, but the majority of the daughters, if we really want to fit the situation, why not talk to the parents or the fathers in the homes in which the daughters that is attractive or whatever that the predators find on their list they want to predator. They don't get them when they do try and they don't get them. Why don't we talk about the stories of the daughters of with the parents and why they decided not to go with the predator, why they decided not to go with the guy that tried to take him away and go do the things they try to do to him. In order for us to fix the situation, don't you believe that we need the fathers and the parents of the kids that have survived that, if they knowledge get out here and get embraced instead of embracing the parents or the situations at home in which the daughter was successful to that and decided that the predator convinced them to do things they wasn't supposed to do. Maybe we put more focus on the fathers and the parents that kids survived that, then maybe the culture and everybody can understand why those daughters didn't do it. Because
so I think we get your point. We get your point. Let's respond to it because we got to wrap this up.
I'm sorry. So I want to address that. One, if there is a young lady who was approached by a predator and she wasn't groomed or she didn't go with them, chalk it up to luck. I have to be super clear with that. There is no silver bullet to protect people who want to be preyed upon. So I don't think it's a failure when your child is preyed upon. Because when you look at the girls who are preyed upon, in the case of R. Kelly, many of these girls come from two-parent households where the parents were very involved. So I definitely hear what you're saying, that, we need to esteem the parents of the girls who did not fall for the predator or who weren't preyed upon. But what I would say, brother, is we need to be careful about kind of saying they weren't preyed upon because of some magic bullet. Sometimes it just didn't happen that way. And yes, there is evidence to suggest that if you have a two-parent household and you are active in your child's life and there's social capital, that your child is less at risk. My children have two doctoral educated parents in their life, but my daughter is a 13-year-old Black girl in Atlanta, Georgia. She is in the highest risk group for human trafficking.
Yep.
I have to at all times be aware of that. And there's nothing her father nor I can do to change that dynamic. So I think, yes, we have to look at what are some best practices, but unfortunately, there are no magic bullets.
And we have to be careful of victim blaming.
Right.
We got to close up, but we have to address predators. We have to address that there are predators in our community, and we have to find ways to address that.
With respect to accountability, this is one thing that I thought about myself, because I didn't recognize or appreciate the predatory behavior of R. Kelly and other artists. I made a comment about Too Short being at Spelman College when I was a freshman, kind of parading and hanging around when the freshman buses came. And he literally is a year removed, right? You graduate from Kenwood, you go to Spelman, and there's Too Short driving around looking to give you a ride. So it made me think about some of the accountability piece with respect to the music and the lyrics that we all listen to. Should we be held accountable for jamming to or purchasing music from questionable artists with questionable lyrics? And, I'm a big music fan, and it got me thinking about so many different artists that I listen to, right? Who loves BBD, right? Backstage, Underage, Adolescent, How You Living? There's so, see, I like to do the wow thing, so there's so much music out there that we are desensitized to, and what's our role? What's our part? It's a bit rhetorical, but with respect to that accountability, I was like, wow.
But then
Any thoughts about that?
I have a question.
No, that's my question.
I'm on my answer in response to that.
No. That's my question.
Okay, this is my answer.
I want to keep us on track because we're wrapping up. Should we be held accountable?
Yes.
We should all be accountable.
But
Absolutely.
what about the parents?
Do we need? I know you stuck on the parents, and we're gonna give you a Father of the Year award.
Not about Father of the Year.
And
Let's be real
appreciate
for a
you.
minute, Dan. It's not about Father of the Year award. Let's be real for a minute.
But you're
Now-
victim blaming, and
No,
I think
no, I'm
that's
not victim. I'm
problematic.
not blaming no victim. I'm going. If we really want to get a root cause and try to fix what's going on about our kids, it's time for the parents to understand what's going on with their kids.
I think
Because
there's
it
some
starts at
accountability
home.
with
It
respect
starts
to
at
parents.
home. Let's be real
But it's
for
not,
a minute.
and we got your point.
If
We've
you're raised
clarified
not to
that.
be a follower, and then your friends out there gang banging, and they out there doing what they do when we grew up, okay? I grew up in a neighborhood where that was prevalent for everybody, but I was raised in a house.
But I'm a
Well, I
victim,
was
and
a-
I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that. I'm a woman who was in the household with both my parents. I didn't ask for
So why
it.
you choose not to listen to them?
Why did I choose not to listen
Yes,
to them?
because if
it
they
wasn't
telling
about
you-
that. My
if they
parents
telling you-
actually thought that it was okay to date the guy
Bro,
that I
that's
was
victim.
dating.
Hey, that's
He didn't
victim
look
blaming,
like
bro.
an
That's not
abuser.
Well,
That's
I'm a
it's victim blaming.
Some victims, some
That's not cool.
some victims don't choose. I was 5 years old. I didn't have a choice.
You just blame you.
Somebody made the choice for me.
Even if they're 14, they're not making the choice to be abused.
That's
Yeah.
your opinion.
That's
No,
not,
that's
yeah.
No, that's
Stand
victim
on
blaming.
that.
It's-
Okay. Okay.
That's lying.
No,
Yes.
You lying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Two-parent household in one of the most affluent suburbs in the United States, Shaker Heights, Ohio, with two parents, and it happened to me.
Yeah.
For someone to assume that I did something or didn't do something is reprehensible. And I can understand and appreciate the need to really elevate the family unit, but we have to be crystal clear that we are not blaming victims.
Absolutely.
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 Agreed.
And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining me. Kenyette, I appreciate you, sister. You are,
Appreciate you.
thank you so much. Keep moving. Yes, and I'll be there soon. Keep moving in the movement. We appreciate you. We support you. How can we reach? Go ahead.
Really quick plug. www.muterkelly.org. We're on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, IG, official Mute R. Kelly. We are currently going to Germany, Amsterdam, and New Zealand and Australia. So please follow us.
Thank you so much. Michelle, how can we reach you with the Fusion Project?
www.fusion4girls.org. And on social media, we're Fusion for Girls.
Yep, and you can find all of them on my timeline. Amanda
www.booksbyamandaadams.com.
and Veronica.
Veronica's House on Facebook, and my number is 630-995-2320. I'll answer.
In addition to all of these sponsors, I want to thank Take My Hand Now for the shirts, takenow.com. Sister Afia, I will be posting some of their wellness tools and things. They've got some information that I'll be posting tomorrow. It's great information about just mental health, mental awareness, things that we should really take into heart. Premier Designs Jewelry, they are fantastic. This is a necklace they've given me. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Janelle,
Lovely.
thank you very much. Lavoso High Quality Pens. These are made by orphans in India, and they do a fantastic job with what they do. It's such a worthy cause. Use promo code Dana to receive 10% off of your order. Thank you so much for supporting us. Jill Whitwer, my personal stylist, Ray Design Company. We thank you. Alex Chapman, Social MVP, Scene Chicago, and GH Private Wealth Management. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please share this show. There's been a lot of good information and good facts and things out here. I've got a lot to say about this. We'll talk about a little bit more later. Thank you all so much for joining me. Next week on Dana Being Dana, swipe left, swipe right. We will be talking about online dating next Wednesday night. Thank you all so much. It's our Valentine's Day show. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.